Dear Mr. Kaçarak, dear colleagues of the Turkish Publishers Association, thank you very much for the invitation to speak to you today. I'm very sorry that I can do this only through a video. First of all, I want to thank you that the Turkish Publishers Association took so many efforts with the application of Istanbul to become World Book Capital for 2024. I'm very sorry and regret that the Turkish UNESCO Commission did not accept your application and did not support it. I am so sorry for this. Because I know how great the professional energy and ambition is in the Turkish library field and also in the publishers region, and that it will be certainly matched with the Publishers Association. This energy and an ambition to build a better world in months, years, and perhaps even decades to come, an ambition for the future. Therefore, I want to use the few minutes I have with you today to address this future and present, use some of my ideas, show how this future might look like. Let me start with a bit of paradox that seems to be a characteristic for our library field. From experience with my colleagues, I know that whenever you ask a question, there are people who answer it, but there are also those, and this is a significant minority, if sometimes not a majority, who prefer to question the question. I must admit that I risk falling into the latter camp today with you, but I hope this will be in a helpful way. Because, as I'm sure you are aware, the future is notoriously difficult to predict, and that even those whose significant prophetic expertise or talent are often unable to do much better than chance. However, just because we cannot clearly see what the future will be, this does not mean we should not prepare for it or try to shape it. We can identify trends, scenarios that could come to pass. Especially importantly, we can rather clearly define the outcomes which we want to avoid. And once we do this, we can think about the best way to do it, the best way to avoid unwanted outcomes. And I want to look at this issue from both perspectives, from the publisher's world and from the library's perspective. They are mostly closer in their essence as one might consider at the first view. Crucially, when we come together, open minds, and think beyond the short terms, the worlds of publishers and libraries are likely to arrive at a broadly common assessment. This isn't to say that we won't disagree at the margins or interpret the same facts in different ways. We all have our own professional assumptions, our received worldviews, and our reflexes. But the efforts to overcome these for a common goal, I believe, is worth it. So, what are the futures we want to avoid, and what can we do about it? I suggest 4: persistent illiteracy, the devaluing of quality, the disintermediation of publishers and libraries, and continued undersupply of diverse digital content. So, the first, I believe it is a future where we continue to have divides between the literate and the illiterate. This is an ongoing and serious issue, including all countries. Literacy is a gateway skill, a prerequisite for other forms of learning and participation. It is, of course, also essential if we are to be able to promote books to our customers and users. Every person denied literacy is also cut off from so many other opportunities, not just to fulfill their own potential, but to contribute to our economies, societies, cultures, political lives. I believe that we need a renewed focus on literacy for all, an understanding that this is an investment, not just in the book markets of tomorrow, but in the world in which we must all live and work. A second one is where accuracy and quality are not longer valued. This has been arguably one of the most unnerving aspects of the rapid spread of mis- and disinformation. For professions built around the need to value of information that will help people, it can be hard to understand why anyone would sign up for conspiracy theories or blatant lies. However, this is also a fundamental human trait and one that long predates concerns about fake news. Because for all that you can teach the skills to tell the difference between proper research and junk science, there also needs to be the curiosity, the will to test, challenge, and to understand. This is a hard sell. We are pre-programmed to prefer certainty and predictability. Admitting that we don't know for sure, that is complicated. That there are dependencies isn't easy. But this is also how we could avoid dead ends, how we can make progress. Responding to this will take all our efforts. Through our work, we need to give people the confidence, the openness, the skills to engage with new ideas, including those that are challenging us. A third thing to avoid is one where publishers and libraries alike are disintermediated. This is closely linked to the previous two, of course, but also reflects a strong trend in modern thinking, especially in the digital world, towards the idea that existing institutions, private and public, are the enemies of progress, and that a totally decentralized world would be the ideal. I would argue that this cannot be the case. Intermediaries can have a major positive influence, helping to ensure inclusiveness, avoiding a situation where it is only the strongest or loudest who is heard or who is served. Of course, we need to be careful. The status quo should not be protected for our own sake. We should not pretend that we are entitled to support because of who we are. We need to avoid being patronizing, claiming the role of a gatekeeper. Instead, we need to have the confidence to show that we continue to add immense value alongside the more direct channels that the internet has enabled. And we have plenty of arguments at hand. For example, one of the great positives of the rise of fake news as a media phenomenon is that now there is a greater recognition that quality does matter. Another is that we can, thanks to our ideas, thanks to our values, to our ethics, and to our transparency, we can offer something more than a system driven by an opaque algorithm programmed only to maximize attention. And a fourth thing to avoid is the undersupply of relevant content. Because none of us benefit when it is a small number of information providers or platforms from an even smaller number of countries that dominate the world of knowledge and information. This skews people's experience and learning. It can lead to the understudy of local issues and challenges and even alienation. It narrows our focus, shuts off new ideas before they can emerge. And of course, in the context of the pandemic, the fact of content not being available digitally effectively meant that it wasn't available at all, which is a tragedy given the demand that the need that exists and becomes so evident during the pandemic. In our responses, we need to be very smart here. Actions that do not address this dominance or indeed strengthen it cannot claim to be the solutions for the world. I therefore believe that we need to get beyond decision-making motivated by fear and uncertainty. There is such a strong possibility for libraries and publishers to partner to provide access to works and content while avoiding the risk of piracy. We need to lobby together for meaningful policies to support truly local creative output, designed in a way that allows for the targeting of benefits, while of course avoiding politicization. So, returning to the exam question for this session, these actions, I believe, do not necessarily represent a forecast for the future and a description of how to avoid unwanted future developments. However, they do represent the basis of an effort to future-proof of our sector, to set out ourselves best for whatever future is coming, to address proactively and confidently those trends that could otherwise limit our potential to deliver on policy goals, not least those set out in the Sustainable Development Goals of the United Nations. And indeed, in doing so, we can already make a major contribution to shaping a better future based on universal literacy, on curiosity and on innovation, on ethics and professionalism, and on creativity and diversity. This definitely is a future worth working towards, a sustainable future worth working towards in partnership and collaboration with you. I wish you a good conference. Thank you for your attention and hope that we will work together in a very, very good partnership.